So I was teaching in this school, secondary school. It was really challenging, right? Subhanallah, I remember a teenager throwing a kind of blue tack in a ball at my face. I had, a big teenage guy threatening me physically. I had my phone stolen. I had a really tough time, right? I was a new teacher, trainee teacher, and understandably, I was really upset with the kids, right? Really upset. And I'll never forget one day I was sat down and the assistant head came and he was the head of behavior. And he sat down with me, like a mentor. He was opposite me. And he said to me, Tushar, if you're going to succeed in this job, right? If you're going to succeed with these kids, all these problems, and I used to kind of call, right? We had like not like a bell, but I think there's a button you could press, or you could ring, and then the assistant head would come, or the head teacher would come, and they would come and shout at the kids, or kind of take them out for detention and things like that, right? But what the problem became, the more you did that, they'd start losing the respect of the teacher, right? And so the good teachers wouldn't need to do that much, right? And in my training days, I was doing that a lot. And so he said to me, he said, all this misbehavior, right? Them throwing stuff at you, them driving you crazy, them shouting out. He said it's all your fault. Every time. Any problems you get in the class, it's your fault, 100%. He says if you don't accept it like that, if you don't take full responsibility, you're never going to cut it as a teacher. You're not going to qualify. And I was like, whoa, that was hard for me to take, right? Because how can it not be their fault? They're the ones throwing things at me. They're the ones who are being disrespectful. They're the one, right? But when I reflected on it, and trust me, those days I'd come back with tears and stuff, right? And I used to think, and I realized that, well, look, these same kids, when they're being taught by Maulana so and so, when they're taught by Mr. Patel, or when they're being taught by Mrs. So, the other teachers, they're not misbehaving with them. And I realized that he was right. It is my fault. They're misbehaving for me, but they're not misbehaving for others. I'm the big factor in the equation. And also that's empowering, because what's the point in me as a teacher blaming them for the outcome? It's not gonna, I can't change them. Well, I can. I can influence them, but only through my own actions, only by creating better lessons, only by creating better structures of behavior management, only by having better routines. I mean, teaching's an amazing job. Any teachers listen to this, or if you know any teachers, respect to them. It's one of the most hardest professions there is. They say an accountant, a lawyer, any other job, you have one client at a time, right? As a teacher, you got 30 at a time. And if you don't get it right, they give you the feedback. They're throwing the tomatoes at you, right, by the end of the lesson. So anyway, now I brought that into my coaching. And because now I realize that, and not just coaching, but in life, now I realize that if a husband comes to me complaining about his wife and saying it's all her fault, or if a wife comes to me complaining about her husband, saying he's such a terrible husband, or I know of myself, if I'm blaming my son and thinking he is so rude and disrespectful compared to how I was to my dad, right? Any of these thoughts come to me, I remember that moment, and I also remember how the scholars would say that when you point the finger at someone else, there are three fingers pointing back at you, right? And so this is, in modern parlance in the military, they call it extreme ownership, right? There's a book by it, in Extreme Ownership, written by two former military personnel, US military personnel, who become speakers. And productivity gurus recommend the book because it's just for the concept, right? In terms of like to be successful at a military level when you're in combat situations, if you're a general, if you're a leader, imagine that you take ownership of your battalion, of your soldiers. And so it's like that in life, right? And so the message from all this, and this is why for my students on my Vista program, whatever problem we're facing, whether it's problems at work, whether it's problems with the family, whether it's problems, the first prerequisite of any client working with me is that, do you take full responsibility of your actions? Do you accept, and I ask this question to you in general, that you are where you are in your life, right, or in your business or in your work because of your choices, right? Okay, sure, we had limitations, right, which we might have been bound by, but ultimately, the people who are successful, Muslim, non-Muslim, it's when they accept that reality and they accept full responsibility of their outcomes. So this is my message to you on this day. Look at whatever the problems are in your life and ask yourself, are you taking ownership? Are you blaming someone else? Because once you blame someone else, right, that's a problem. That's a problem, right? So if you're not happy with your marriage, what are you doing about it? Are you the best husband or wife you are? If you're not happy with your kids, have you been on a right? I recently got a parenting coach, right? Seriously, right? Because I realized that my own parenting skills were not strong enough, were not good enough for my own child, right? So it's like we have to take action, right? And we have to take responsibility and make sure we're doing the utmost which we can. And if you look at the Prophet ﷺ, he had problems in his life, right? But he was very proactive, and he never pointed the finger at others. It's really important, guys. Take the fault, take the blame, and that will empower you. Because once you blame everyone else, you become a victim. And when you're a victim, victims never succeed, right? The victim mindset never succeeds. Think of any person you admire, and you'll notice that they're proactive. You'll notice that they're people of change, of action, right? So let's do that. Let's be people of action. Let's be proactive Muslims. Let's follow that sunnah. Let's be strong. And inshallah, we will find progress and benefit in whichever area of life we're struggling with. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.